Okay, to clarify, I'm against murder unless it's funny.
Welcome to Wow If True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're your one-stop internet culture shop, here to dissect what's going viral, why we care, and how this might affect our real human lives. I'm back from Korea. Incredible. Back to podcasting. Isabel.
And I'm Amanda. Anyone could be famous on the internet, so why not us? Okay, so there's something going on that I know all of our listeners want us to talk about, and we're finally going to talk about it.
Right, like, it totally makes sense for us to talk about because we've been talking about this shit forever.
Yeah. And the big news is that Tesla recalled the Cybertruck for faulty accelerator pedals that can get stuck. But really, Tesla is recalling almost 4,000 Cybertrucks, which is especially funny because that means that they've only sold 4,000 Cybertrucks. And since we're just a podcast dedicated to talking about Elon Musk, we knew just straight from the top, this is the news everyone is waiting for.
Right, this is exactly what all of our listeners want to hear. Also, wait, actually, unironically, it wasn't even 4,000. It was like 3,800 Cybertrucks.
Yes, 3,878. Which is like, this was the first new model of a Tesla vehicle since 2020, and it was like a big moment, and like no one bought it.
Well, 3,878 people bought it.
Yeah. Okay, fine, we'll stop talking about this. You know what else got bought? Isabel's book.
What was that segue? Okay. Yeah. Your boy's got a 7-figure book deal.
Yeah, anyone can be famous on the internet, so why not Isabel?
I feel like if you listen to this podcast, the chances of you knowing about this are about 50% because it was announced in like Deadline and also on my Twitter and stuff. And I don't know how closely everybody on this podcast follows my like personal Twitter accounts and stuff like that. On account of that's the nature of how parasocial relationships work, I guess.
Yeah.
Should I explain the situation?
Yeah, let's just get into it. Like, from the get-go, what the fuck is happening?
Okay, so the situation as it stands right now, so this is actually about 67% of the knowledge that I can actually tell people, because there's other stuff happening that I cannot tell people about because it's getting its own separate, fun little news blasts at some point in time.
LMAO.
I've gotten so good at keeping secrets, Amanda. I've gotten so fucking good at keeping secrets. Except you told your mom about this.
Yeah.
I told you about this, and then you told your mother. And I was like, damn.
Listen, I think in my defense, it's like when you tell someone, like, this is a secret, you can't tell anyone. I think they're allowed to tell their mom.
Moms are excluded from this whole... Like, I guess. Honestly, I guess. Like, people have told me stuff, and I've told my mom. So I can't really say that much shit. Which is why I didn't give you that much shit for it, because I'm like, damn. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, also, I feel like it's funny because my mom has a parasocial relationship with you because she listens to every episode of the podcast, but she's never met you.
Is your mom proud of me?
She is. She's excited.
Nice.
All that really matters, it doesn't matter how your parents feel, but know that my mom is like, wow, good for Isabel.
My mom literally called me the other day while I was out just randomly to tell me that she was proud of me, and I was honestly like, that's actually really sweet.
Wow.
I'm also out doing things.
Wow.
Sorry.
Okay, so what's happening?
Okay, so here's what's happening. Basically, the part that I can talk about is that I have a 7-figure book deal with Tor for 3 books.
Woo!
And by 7 figures, I mean that it is above $1 million. That is so many dollars. I do not get all of these dollars at once. I get them at different points in the publishing timeline. Basically, at different book delivery dates, they will give me dollars for different portions of the book. This is how capitalism and publishing works. And also, along with that, Universal International Studios has optioned the piece of book for like adaptation into a TV show, which is a very rare thing to happen when you do not have the book out. Mm-hmm. It does happen to have the book and TV deals happen at the same time. It's rarer. It happens more often if you're famous or if you're an established quantity. But it can also happen to Isabel J. Kim, co-host of Wow If True.
Yes.
To clarify, the situation I'm in right now is actually completely fucking insane in the sense that over the course of all of this process happening, I kept asking my agent, Steven, about like, hey, is this normal? And he'd be like, don't worry about it. I mean, he didn't say that, but that was kind of like the attitude. And then like eventually he told me, he was like, yeah, this happens. Like he told me like, yeah, this happens to me like once or twice every couple of years. And also like one person every year is going to get the $1 million debut. Publishing has anointed you as it's like, you know, it's God's perfect angel this year. And then eventually things got so out of hand that he was like, yeah, this is happening to me once in my career. And I was like, cool. Cool, Steven, who's been doing this for like 10 years. That's a cool thing to hear.
God's perfect angel, Isabel J. Kim, co-host of Wow of True podcast, a podcast anointed by God.
Basically, I'm super excited about this, but I'm also super excited about this on a 1 month delay in the sense that I have known about all of this happening for between 6 and 3 weeks based on what piece of information it is. And I have just had to not tell people while having a million meetings.
Yeah. Except for my mom.
Except for your mom, and my mom, and also you, and a couple of other people, and the guys that beta my books. Anyway, so, book.
Imagine if you told my mom and not me.
That would be funny. Next time I have a big piece of information, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, that'd be so
funny. I'm gonna
funny.
just call your mom. I think that's what I'm gonna do, and then she can tell you, and you'll be like, why?
That'd be so
did
funny.
This happen?
But also, what's crazy about the situation is so this is all sort of spurred by your viral moment with your Omelas story going viral, which I don't know if we talked about that on the main feed. I think that was a Patreon thing, right?
Yeah. It was a Patreon thing, but now it's been long enough that I feel okay about talking about it in the sense that, like, it's no longer a work in progress sort of situation. The reason that it was originally on Patreon is because part of what was going on with the Omelas story is that there was a lot of discourse. The other part of it is that, like, a lot of, like, famous writer guys, famous authors who I know and have read as, like, teenagers read it, and also a lot of editors and publishing were reading it. So, the Omelas story, quote unquote, why don't we just kill the kid in the Omelas hole, which you should go read because it's kind of funny. It's the funniest story about killing children that you'll read this year, I think.
That's safe to say.
I'm really selling it. It went what I would call like mini viral on like science fiction writer Twitter and Blue Sky. What's funny is that it went viral on Blue Sky, which led to people Omelas posting like 2 days before Blue Sky opened their gates to everybody. So it was kind of like a why are people posting about Omelas sort of situation. And I was like, my bad.
Yeah. Also,
sorry.
Neil Gaiman is so active on Blue Sky, and Neil Gaiman liked the story.
He did, but also I'm like, Neil, can you stop posting and do your work?
Yeah.
This is how I feel whenever I see him on Tumblr. Also, the relationship between me and Neil Gaiman is like me pointing at him going like, I'm going to kill you, old man. I'm going to defeat you and take your place. And him looking at me like, who are you?
And why are you trying to kill children?
Yeah, well, he liked it, so he clearly approves of it. This is how media works.
Even my 70-year-old friend Dave has been active in the sci-fi community since he was, like, not 70.
So 69.
Yeah, no, he's been, like, in these circles for, like, 40-plus years. And I was like, hey, did you see the Omelas story? And he was like, yeah, it was good.
Nice. Dave's approval and your mom's approval. This is all I need.
Yeah.
But so that went mini viral, and basically what happened is I got a lot of publishing interest from that, which led to Steven being like, hello, it's time. But also it's like Carl, my editor at Tor, being like, hello, do you have any books? And me being like, yes.
Hell yeah.
This is how publishing works. No, honestly, I'm describing this in super vague terms because, first of all, it's like my human personal life. And second, I guess not personal, I guess it's professional. And I guess the other part is that, like, this is a very weird edge case scenario for anybody writing. So good luck.
My edge case scenario is now, you know, when your podcast co-host gets over $1 million and then your podcast co-host's agent is like, hey, Amanda, where's that book? And you're like, fuck, I need to write a book.
I feel like Steven's honestly, like, 30% of his job is bothering people to write books.
Honestly, good for him.
Like, that's honestly, it kind of sounds like a great job in some ways because, well, first of all, he seems to really enjoy his job, which I love this for him. And second, it does seem like he is just out here bothering authors he likes to write books, which I didn't know you could get paid to do that. I was doing that for free on Tumblr.
Yeah. I feel like you're one of those people where, like, if you're not writing fiction, you literally will disintegrate.
Yeah, no, it's more just that if I'm not, like, obsessed with a piece of media, I will start losing my mind. And if I'm not obsessed with a piece of fandom, then I have to, like, start making my own. You know, like, if you can't get it store-bought, homegrown is fine.
Yeah.
Except I don't, like, the problem is that, like, okay, whenever I write something, I can't really enjoy it later. Because it's like being able to make infinity pies that you can't eat.
Wow. That's deep. Just to connect the dots a little bit, just to be very clear for people that haven't been following this whole saga, I don't think we mentioned, so Omelas is an Ursula K. Le Guin story about, like, a kid in a hole, and the society is all utopian and everything's great, and then you find out that the only reason it's like that is because there's a kid in the hole suffering, and then it's like, well, what do you do? Like, do you free the kid and then everyone suffers? And it's kind of just like a whole ethical thing.
It's a whole situation. It's a trolley problem.
Yeah, it's a trolley problem that apparently a lot of people read in middle school, and I did not. So I was just like, damn, Omelas, crazy. But so Isabel wrote a story responding to that, being like, well, what if we just kill the kid? And it's kind of like a joke. But people were talking about it.
Okay, wait, to pause here. I think the best reactions to... Okay, and this is not the best reaction, this is actually the worst reaction, but it's the funniest reaction. And I just want to talk about it here because it's been really weighing on my mind. So it got posted to the Rationalist subreddit.
Yes! Let's fucking go, my boys! Not really. Okay, I'm not a rationalist, but I am, like, weirdly fascinated by Harry Potter and the methods of rationality and the fandom around it in, like, a morbid way. Like, in the way that you, like, see a car crash and you're like, whoa, I need to look at it.
No, this is also how I feel about it as somebody who's been, like, on and off reading Slate Star Codex for, like, 12 years just to kind of see what's going on. I don't believe in their beliefs, but I do like watching them go. But the best comment there was, like, somebody being like, well, first of all, they're all writing paragraphs and like 2/3 of them hate the story and hate the way it's written, which that's fine. You don't have to like it. The best comment there was some guy being like, yeah, murdering children is good, actually, because life is suffering. And then all the response comments being like, whoa there, that's too far.
This is why I'm obsessed with, like, just lurking like, on these forums and being like, I hate all these people, but I'm gonna read everything they write.
Like, it was just like, that was just really funny to me, where somebody's like, yeah, the takeaway from the story about murdering children is that we should murder children, and everyone being like, stop. You need to stop.
That's like reading A Modest Proposal and being like, you know what? We should eat babies.
Yeah, that's exactly what... Anyway, so that was...
Isabel J. Kim is so right. We should be committing murder. But if they listen to our podcasts, you joke about murdering so much that we made merch that says, just kill them, this is not legal advice.
Okay, to clarify, I'm against murder unless it's funny. Does that help?
Yes, but okay, I'm going to annoy a big portion of the listeners who are only here for Isabel discourse, but speaking of rationality...
Are you going to talk about Laos?
No! No!
Sorry, go on.
No! So, okay, I just want to briefly say, while we're on the topic of Harry Potter and the methods of rationality,
okay.
So... Another very famous Harry Potter fan fiction, All the Young Dudes. I talked about on the podcast before how there's like an absolutely batshit insane fan theory that Taylor Swift wrote All the Young Dudes. Which,
God,
it's so fucking funny.
Does the new Taylor Swift album, do you think, like, lend credence to this theory?
Yes!
Oh!
So, okay, imagine this is the setting. Yesterday, it was 420. Okay. Blaze it.
Blaze
it is also...
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Yeah, happy birthday, Aaron. It was also my friend Dan's birthday. And Dan's roommate loves Taylor Swift. Dan does not care. And sometimes Dan's roommate, this is not Andrea, who appeared on the last podcast. Shout out to Andrea, separate person. Dan's roommate loves Taylor Swift, and sometimes Dan is like, okay, like, we need to slow down on the Taylor Swift. I am a terrible friend, so on Dan's birthday, I was like, hey, so I'm curious, as a Swiftie, what are your thoughts on the new Taylor Swift album? And because genuinely I wanted to know, because there's been so much discourse, and I'm like, well, I'm not really a fan, so like from a fan's perspective, I just want to know. And then I was like, Dan, I'm so sorry, we're going to spend the next half an hour talking about Taylor Swift. But in the process, my friend was like, oh, you would think this is interesting. So, you know the theory that Taylor Swift wrote Harry Potter fanfic? And I'm like, yes, I'm extremely familiar. Thank you for asking. And then apparently there's a song on the album called The Black Dog. And everyone's like, it's Sirius Black. It's Sirius Black.
Wait, okay. I see it. I'm connecting the dots.
I just think it's so funny.
I just want to believe this because I choose to believe this theory because it lends itself to a more interesting universe than if it's not true.
Yeah,
you
okay.
know?
I'm going to catch a lot of heat for saying this, but I think that a big piece of evidence that points to Taylor Swift not having written All the Young Dudes is that All the Young Dudes is better written than Taylor Swift's music.
Damn! No, but maybe this is a ruse. Maybe she knows that highbrow Harry Potter fanfic readers are more well educated than the mass of the American populace. I can't fucking keep this bit up. Like,
it's me, the highbrow Harry Potter fanfic reader. My podcast co-host is getting $1 million, and I'm a highbrow Harry Potter fanfic reader.
I think that would be a great shirt. Like, it would be a really bad shirt, but it'd be a great shirt.
Speaking of great shirts, this is an actual segue back into the main topic of the podcast, and not me making everyone rip their hair out by telling you about Taylor Swift's batshit fan theories. We're gonna have merch that says, I listened to Wow of True before Isabel J. Kim got a 7-figure book deal.
This was a joke that Allison, shout out to Allison, made.
No, I made the joke. Allison made the joke.
Well, you made the
art.
joke, and Allison made the design. And then people were like, we'll actually buy it. And I think it'd be funny if I wore that shirt, so I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, I even, I showed people, my friends, the art that are, not people that listen to Wow of True, because, if you're my friend and you're choosing to elect to listen to me talk about more things, then, wow, that's just, you're choosing to spend your time doing things, because this is just how I am in daily life, and it's a lot. But my, real life friends were like, yeah, I would buy that shirt.
Yeah, and, that's the final litmus test of this.
Yes. Anyway, so back to Omelas. So my question here is also, because you've been, doing very well as a sci-fi short story writer for a long time, and, I know from knowing you that it's not like this is the first time that the what if I try to get a book deal thing has come up, where, you've pitched Sublimation, which is the debut novel that is, the first of the 3 book deals. You've pitched that to places, and nothing has come of it. And then it turns into a 6 publishing house auction.
Okay, so the situation with Sublimation is that it was not at the state where we were going to go wide with it, if that makes sense. So it had only been pitched to one place that had expressed interest, and they also offered on it, and it was I'm not going to use anybody's names here because I feel like people don't do that, but I'm also not sure. But anyway, I had liked the editor I talked to there a lot, and she had expressed interest in the book, and that book has never really been on submission other than to this one place, very much as a partial with a proposal.
Okay.
And I've basically been told, you need more, it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd been lightly told this. This was not exactly the formal, this is what needs to happen. But I was also out with my other book, 2 months ago. Really recently, we'd gone on sub with my other book, which I had finished a while ago, which is the one that I talk about a little bit more online, because it was, done, which is, my wizard book. I only ever refer to it as my wizard book, and I feel like if you read it, you'd understand, but it's actually not a good description of it. I also don't talk about that a lot, but that had only been on submission for a month. I had talked this over with Steven, and we talked about the fact that this actually gets into interesting publishing shit, which I think is more interesting, more relevant to people's lives, which is that an adult debut novel that is a serious, our world with one speculative twist sort of novel is a much stronger debut than a really, really weird wizard book that's maybe YA.
Fuck.
Apprentice Liar is I like it a lot. I think, like, I don't like most of my writing, and I like Apprentice Liar a lot. But it is also, like, a adult debut is a stronger debut than a YA debut, and also, if you do 2 different age categories, you essentially get 2 bites of the apple. So even though Apprentice Liar had been done for a while, for a long time, our decision had been, it makes more sense to finish Sublimation and start submitting that before Apprentice Liar. And then it just took me fucking forever to write Sublimation because of the day job. And also, like, there's kind of, what I'd kind of realized is that there's a period of time before you start actually, like, submitting stuff out there where nobody, that's, like, the one period in your life, if you're a writer, where nobody's really, you have your entire life to write your first book, and then you're on deadline. And this is a situation I'm finding myself in right now because I have a 3-book deal.
Yeah.
I have 1 book. I need 2 more books. And so now it's not like, oh, I can take, like, 3 years to write this book. It's like, oh, you gotta actually write the book soon. And I'm like, oh, I gotta write the book soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that, like, honestly, one of the things that people need to consider when they're, like, first of all, trying to get an agent, and also when they're trying to submit a book, is, like, whether the project that they're thinking of is something that makes sense, something that's, like, a strong, like, first book. But also, like, don't worry about it. Just write whatever you want. I wrote Apprentice Liar because I wanted to write it, because I was having, like, a quarter-life crisis, so, I don't know.
Not to put you in the hot seat, but as a creative person who also has big ambitions, I am interested in when you say I was having a quarter-life crisis. Because I do think it's interesting how you've very quickly gone from, like, crazy writer person who is working in corporate law because you have to make money and you're smart enough to do that, to person who is the crown jewel of the you get the big debut author thing of the year in like it feels like that happened in like a month.
Yeah, no, it literally happened in 2 months. It was the weirdest 2 fucking months of my life. Because, like, the Almost Story came out early February, and then February and March were like, hello, Isabel. Do you want all of your dreams handed to you, but also you need to turn some of these down for schemes and machinations reasons to get other dreams that you didn't even know could exist?
Oh my god.
No, it was, like, literally the most stressful, like, 2 months of my life, like, in a good way. But it was also, like, I was, like, dying at work because, like, there was a really hard work thing. And obviously work doesn't really give a shit about your personal life. Mm-hmm. But people were actually very nice. People were very nice about, like, letting me have a couple of hours here and there, just, like, at random times to have all these meetings. No, I don't know. Like, I mean, so what's interesting is that, like, even if you're a published author in, like, short fiction and stuff like that, and you get, like, listed on, like, recommended reading lists and stuff like that, and sometimes people will be like, I taught your thing in a college course, and I'll be like, cool. You never really see whether people are reading you or not, but kind of in the last, like, 3-4 months, I've realized that, like, within the short fiction industry, which is kind of like a microcosm of the science fiction, like, greater cosmos, I guess, I'm sort of like a quote-unquote, like, writer's writer, which is what my agent had previously told me, where it's like, people who are in the industry, like, read you once in a while, but it's not like the wider world knows about you, but within that space, that's a good place to break out from. Because...
writer's writer.
No, it's like, you know, because then if people in the industry know who you are, and you do have a product that you can bring to the wider world, and that actually makes a lot of sense. And also, it's like, I don't know, like, I mean, there's... The way that I'm thinking about it is that, like, there's a part of my brain that likes making content. And, oh god, I hate saying making content. There's a part of my brain that will work on a podcast script at 11 p.m. and not put that much effort into it because it's 11 p.m. But I will do it at 11 p.m. because that's who I am. And there's a part of my brain that will go on vacation and write a novelette instead of, like, being on vacation. And the part of my brain that will write 50,000 words of fan fiction in 2 months just because, why not? You know, like, either I'm writing or I die, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And then there's the part of my brain that's very, like, business focused on, like, okay, so, like, what should you be writing to be making money? I used to be a lot more idealistic about the stuff I was making. I don't like that this is a world where you need to either be bankrolled by a partner or your parents or by, like, a trust fund, which I guess is also your parents, or by having a really high-paying corporate job to be someone who can afford to be a writer or a creative. I think that's actually a net detriment to society, and it means that, like, people don't have the space to fail. People don't have the space to fail, and only a certain class of people are going to make art, and then we're only going to get art about these certain things. Like, I honestly think it's kind of bullshit that it's, like, me like, guy with 2 Ivy League degrees who works as a corporate lawyer doing finance stuff. That being said, very funny to go into these meetings and people ask what I do, and I'm a lawyer, and then they say, what sort of law do you do? And I say I do leveraged finance. That's really fun. That's funny as hell, because then there's kind of like a little moment with everyone has where they're like, oh, she knows math.
Oh my god. No, I've been in a meeting with you where you've told someone you're a leveraged finance lawyer and then 5 minutes later been like, want to see my swords?
Yeah, because, I contain multitudes.
Yes.
But yeah, like, something art and capital being entwined in a way that makes me uncomfortable, but also makes me go like, okay, yeah, it makes sense to write to the market to some extent. That being said, you should just make whatever you want and get good at your craft, but also be very strategic about like where you're taking your stuff.
So you talked about the weirdest reaction someone had to the Omelas story, which was someone being like, yeah, we should kill children.
Yeah, that was a lot.
What have been the weirdest reactions people have had to your book news?
I think the weirdest reactions have mostly been the fact that people... Okay, so can I just paint a word picture of like how the book news dropped?
Yes.
Because it was truly deranged, because like I think I got to this moment and I realized that like, oh, Isabel, you just live in situations. You are never not going to be in a situation, and you just need to accept this. Now, I finally fucking accepted it. So I was in Korea when the news drops.
Hell yeah.
And it's the first time I'm back in Korea in like 6 years. And I'm there, and it's like 20 hours, maybe like 20 hours, like maybe like 20, 30 hours before I'm getting on a plane back to the States. It's 4 a.m. in Korea, and then the Deadline news drops. Because somebody had leaked all the news to Deadline. So then, of course, the Deadline thing drops in the middle of the night for me. It's 4 a.m, and then obviously I can't go back to sleep because I need to fucking post about it. And I need to post about it because, we live on the internet, and also I need to capitalize on the moment what's happening. And then, so this is 4 a.m, and I'm just fucking posting. And I also get like 3 hours of sleep. And then I have to go give a university talk. I need to go to Korea University to give a talk to this professor who I'd met at a science fiction conventions class, which I'm expecting to be a seminar. It is not a seminar, it is a full auditorium. I have not prepared for this because she had told me it would be chill. The other fun thing here is this professor is like, we didn't know this when we met each other at the conference, but we met before. We met 6 years ago.
Oh my god.
Because our moms know each other from 7th grade.
That's so funny.
Well, our moms know each other from 7th grade, and my mom was going to go talk with her about for life advice reasons, and I was there sort of like as a proof of concept, also just like I was just like in Korea and my mom was dragging me places. So she met me when I was 22, and we like probably exchanged like 5 words to each other because I was not super interested in the situation on account of being 22.
That's so funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought she was really cool because she was like an English professor doing like really interesting like multidisciplinary stuff. But I was also kind of like, I'm 22 and I don't know how to talk to adults, and also my mom, I mean I did, but like my mom's dragging me to locations. Like I've had I've had lunch with her mother.
That's really funny.
And then we just didn't know who each other were, and she independently read a bunch of my shit.
That's really funny.
And then I gave a talk at her university like 6 hours after the book news drops. She announces that to her class. Her class asked me a bunch of questions about like writing shit. I'm also like on the verge of passing out because of the lack of sleep, and also just life is hard sometimes. But then we get like lunch and like cake and stuff, and then I go back to the hotel, and then I keep posting, and I get on a plane for like 13 hours, and then I'm back in the States.
Did you sleep on the plane?
A little bit, but it was also like the most turbulent flight of my existence, and I also have like horrible flight anxiety, so it was like it was an experience. It's fine.
Yeah. I can't sleep on planes, not because of anxiety, but because my brain just doesn't work.
That's unfortunate. So yeah, that was the book news drop experience. So it was less celebratory and more just kind of like a series of machinations I had to get through.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, just in like a silly way.
My book news experience drop was that I got to post all of the jokes I had been saving up for like a month on the Wow True Twitter.
God, I love this for you. The other part of my book news experience is I made some silly tweets, and then they got embedded in news articles, so now I'm gonna think more carefully about what I post.
Oh my god. Well, what silly tweets? Did they embed your tweets about making Gatorade bread?
Oh, I made Gatorade naan 2 days ago.
No.
It was pretty bad.
But was the Gatorade naan better than the Gatorade loaf?
No, it sucked. It sucked shit. Actually, the Gatorade bread was pretty
Oh
good.
my god.
I live a life incomprehensible to most.
Yes, it's incomprehensible to me.
Okay, my post that's like, hey guys, my book is being adapted for TV by Universal National Studios. Haha, oh, did I mention that I sold a book? Haha, did I mention 3 books to Tor in a 7-figure 6-house auction? Anyway, read the Deadline article for deets. That post. Mm-hmm. Which is like, I feel like that one's actually pretty regular.
Yeah.
It could be weirder.
No, this is like, I hate when people are like, oh my god, I'm so weird on Twitter. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna like get fired for my tweets. And then the tweets are like, haha, like, I listened to a podcast one time.
It's like, haha, I made spaghetti.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one, this one I actually felt weird about because I was like, oh, this one actually is a meme. Tired, moving in silence like the G in lasagna. Wired, posting the Publishers Marketplace announcement of my dreams. I'm so excited for everyone to read Sublimation and also the 2 other books that are not Sublimation. And then I posted the Publishers Marketplace screenshot.
Moving in silence like the G in lasagna is great.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that there.
I think it's really funny.
And I'm like, oh no. But the thing is, like, I think it's a funny phrase, and I think I like saying things. I like saying words.
I think it's good that you're being yourself.
I'm just kind of like, I'm perhaps being too much myself.
I like the syntax of Publishers Marketplace deals, where it says,
yes,
in a major deal, comma, in a 7-figure deal, comma, at auction, comma, in a 3-book deal, comma.
Yeah, they really are like, they're really trying to hammer home that this was big deal for cash money. I should probably talk about what the book is about, right?
Yeah.
Should I just read the Publishers Marketplace thing? Oh my god, this was also what I was doing at 4 in the morning in Korea, as me and Steven were workshopping this.
Oh no.
Okay. A literary speculative thriller set in a version of our world where instancing splits a person into 2 distinct copies when they cross a country's border. One who moves and one who remains. When a woman who left returns to Seoul and must face her other self, her childhood friend's New York self draws her into conspiracy to control the future of instancing, bringing both versions of him back into her life with global repercussions. It's really vague the way they do it, but basically it's about trust no one, not even yourself. And it is also an extension of my short story. Okay, this is actually really fucked up because I wrote the short story version of this when I was like 22. Mm-hmm. Like 22 or 23. And it's the thing I'm working on now that's gotten me book deal. And that's kind of a weird feeling. And it's also a weird feeling because I was reading One Piece the other day because I was catching up on One Piece and I had the thought, wow, it's crazy that this guy started this thing when he was 22. I can't imagine what it would be like to have your first good idea be... And then I had like a record scratch moment of like when I started working on this and I was like, oh, never mind.
You're probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it feels like this, actually. It feels weird.
I'm also curious about... So, TV, question mark?
TV is so weird. Okay, TV is like a big group. I don't understand how TV works because on account of the fact that I'm a lawyer and not a TV guy. That being said, I am attached to the project and I do have some abilities to do things. I'm attached as an executive producer if this gets made. So I'm involved. I'm not writing the script because you want a guy who knows how to write scripts to write the script, and also a guy who has like connections in Hollywood and is like a famous dude. Or, like, you know, a guy who can write scripts.
Yeah.
Not a lawyer. We'll see if that changes. But, like, the reason this happened, and, like, this is honestly kind of serendipity, but not serendipity, it was calculated choices I made in my past career stuff, is that, like, so Steven represents me for both TV and for books. So we were able to move really fast when we had all this news to get TV stuff happening. And this is maybe not the case if your agent is not... so in TV, and also Assemble is a production company, and so they were very much able to, like, I basically signed with them really quickly, and they were able to just immediately start shopping this around as soon as like the news about the book stuff leaked to TV, because there were a lot of leaks about this because it's a really big deal. Like, this is the sort of publishing deal like that's like once a year, so it's very much like, hey, there's this new cool thing. Do you guys want to see the new cool thing? And then people did want to see the new cool thing. Now we're at the stage where it's like, we need to essentially it's the putting a team together stage where basically who is the showrunner and who's writing the script is the most important question. After that, we need director, we need to cast it. Most of this is stuff that I'm not going to be involved in other than just like getting to see it. I think.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. But some of the stuff I do have some, like, hey, I can give my opinion, and also, like, I'm the guy that wrote the original thing, and I know all the world building, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how TV gets made. It's essentially a really big group project. I'm actually, now that I've kind of seen a little bit of the underpinnings, I'm actually really surprised that television ever gets made. The other thing that was kind of surprising to me is, like, how much do people trust you with large sums of money is a question that is very important to projects, which actually explains a lot more to me why there's so many remakes being made, because it's very much like the more factors you can control for, the more secure people feel about giving you large sums of money, which in retrospect was obvious.
No, that is interesting, so you wouldn't think about that, like, otherwise.
Right. So that's how all the TV stuff is going. I'll keep you updated if anything interesting happens, I guess. But right now it's like, to quote, I forgot who said this, I'm blanking real hard, moving in silence like the G in lasagna.
It's my understanding that when things get optioned, it's like kind of a crapshoot whether it does get made or not.
It's a maybe. What you want is the people to be invested in getting it made, not just optioning it to take it off the board.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That being said, optioning makes sense because the option is very much like the time period for everybody to get their shit together, to, like, get something made, as opposed to committing before having the team ready to get something made. Because if you think about it, right now, Universal does not have, like, we don't have a showrunner for it.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, can we get a showrunner? Like, I think the answer is yes, but, like, you know, it does make sense to me that there is a time period where it's like, this might happen, and we want exclusivity for it.
Yeah.
That being said, a lot of times stuff gets optioned for just the ability to take it off the board. So, you know, in a lot of ways, it seems like Hollywood's very invested in not getting things made, but it's also kind of like, having seen the back end, I'm kind of like, actually, it's really hard to make anything, so I kind of get it. But I didn't answer your question from earlier, which is, what's the weirdest reaction anyone's had to the news? I think the weirdest reactions in general have been that people who I'd stopped talking to like 3 or 4 years ago, not for any bad reason or any good reason, just kind of like, you know, you just lose touch with people after college and stuff, just like reached out and were like, hey, congratulations, I'm so excited for you. And totally fine. But I was also just kind of like, I would not do that to other people, so it's a surprise that other people are doing it to me. And there was a lot of people who just want to talk to me about this, and I don't really want to talk about the situation to other people because it's like none of other people's business to a pretty large degree.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, it's made me kind of realize that, like, I don't really want to be famous, like famous, but I think author fame would be, like, fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where it's extremely possible for someone to genuinely just be like, hey, wow, someone I know had a really cool thing happen to them. That's awesome. I'm going to tell them congratulations. And that's it. And that's like a totally normal thing to do.
Yeah, totally regular. It's fine.
But I feel like I would have a hard time feeling like people weren't trying to get something from me.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels, and it's also just like there's a lot of people DMing you, and you're kind of like, people are DMing me. Oh wait, actually no. The weirdest reaction anyone's had is, you know, the professor whose class I gave a talk at, her mom told my mom that I should continue being a lawyer.
Ah!
That's the weirdest reaction.
Oh,
Which is just like a very like Korean mom thing to say, which is very funny to me.
I'm glad that the weirdest reaction isn't your podcast co-host being like, we should make merch about this.
No, this is actually par for the course. I was like, that actually tracks for things that you would say. Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, listen, we started from making shirts. We're still making shirts.
Yes.
I understand.
One of the shirts that we made in our past t-shirt making days was "For the Rich." And then...
Oh no. Oh no, that's me now.
Well, no, but also, like, I was on a hike yesterday, and we were playing one of those, like, road trip games where it's, like, you're thinking of a word, and you're trying to get someone else to guess the word, but you don't want the word master to guess the word, and then if you guys say the same word, then the word master has to, like, give you another hint. It's, like, it's, like, kind of convoluted and whatever, but... I was trying to get someone to say the same word as me that starts with V-O, and I was like, a kink where you eat people? And someone got it, and I was like, yes!
Nice. I feel like Vor was having a moment back in like 2016.
Yeah.
And it recently had like a renaissance where people were posting about it again.
For me as an individual, I'm like, how do you like actually write a book?
Well, you put words on a page and you keep doing that forever. I hope this helps.
Cool. I guess I feel like I would get very bogged down by the self-doubt of like, does this plot thing make sense? Or like...
I'll give some actual advice here, which is that like, okay, to actually write something, 2 parts to this advice. First of all, I didn't feel really comfortable with everything I was putting down on the page until like 3 or 4 years after I started like writing seriously. Which I know, that's a long fucking time. But I also wasn't writing a ton during that because I was, like, law schooling. But there was a really definite shift I noticed in my ability to just put words on a page and not think about it too hard and them being the right words. Like, where it turned into mastery over to at the sentence level and also at, like, the structural level. That before had been totally, like, I had to think about every sentence I was doing. And that took away a lot of the mental block. But to get there, you just have to churn through a lot of bad stuff. And the other thing is that, like, knowing, like, accepting the fact that, like, probably 1 out of every 4 things you do is going to be good. And that's okay. Like, most creative stuff is not about hitting it out of the park every time. You are not going to have all winners unless you are perfect and beautiful and God's favorite princess. Most people just, like, makes a bunch of stuff and some of it's good. And you only ever really see the good stuff. But the actual person who's making it sees all the shit that they make and they're like, ah, no, the shit that I made.
Not to be a complete hater again, but it's like the new Taylor Swift album.
Yeah,
There didn't need to be 31 songs. There could have been like 10 songs and it would have been good.
Again, I think she should have just rounded it up to even 50. I think she's a coward. I think she should have released a 50-song album. This is the hill I will die on. And the other thing is that, like, going off of my other point, the first draft of the novel does not need to be good. It can be very bad. It's fine. It's the second draft that needs to be good. And basically, like, the first draft, you're figuring out how all the machinery works. And something that I realized writing longer stuff is that a novel is too big to hold in your head all at once while you're making it. So you're going to write it, and it's going to be disjointed, and there's going to be stuff wrong with it just because of the way that holding it in your head works, which is that it's impossible to do and you're going to be holding different parts of it in your head. And then going back and then editing that into something that's cohesive. The one luxury you have that none of the characters have is that you have time, and also the readers don't have, is that you are outside of the story and you can basically move everything around to your liking. You have infinite chances to fix it until it gets to the reader. So that's what I got. I don't know. I think the other thing is that everybody's process is very different. I've talked to a lot of like authors and writers, and everyone is like kind of insane about the way they do it, but insane in a different way. And because of that, I think trying to adopt another person's process and it not working out for you is like totally fine. I would not recommend anyone write the way that I do, but it works for my brain. So yeah, that's what I got on the abstract advice front. It's also kind of just like, to be a person who does things, you just have to do the things. I know that's boring advice, and it's like not actually actionable other than like you just have to do it, and it's gonna kind of suck. And honestly, like, my hottest take is that I actually think writing is a very bad hobby. I think writing is not the sort of hobby you should have if you want fulfillment in life, unless you're the sort of person that can write things and be fulfilled by the act of writing them and nobody seeing them, which is nobody. Because realistically, mostly when you write stuff, you mostly face rejection, unless you're writing fanfic. I think fanfic is a great hobby because that's actually a writing community that's like a community with a capital C.
Yeah.
But I think like writing fiction professionally, unless you're insane, I don't think it makes sense as a hobby because it's a lot of you trying to get good at a craft and then submitting it to places that mostly just say no. Unless they don't say no, because sometimes they don't say no. Like, I'm actually the last person who can say this sort of thing because within both the short fiction community and also, like, the larger, like, my writing life, I have been extraordinarily... I don't want to say lucky because all self-deprecating jokes aside, I'm a very good writer.
You are.
Yeah, so in some ways, maybe this makes sense, but it's also kind of like it's the right thing in front of the right person at the right time. But you need to be making the stuff for the person to see you. So, I don't know. Either you want to make stuff or you don't make stuff. And I think if it doesn't bring you joy, you shouldn't do it to begin with. Like, outside of all the external factors. Because honestly, like, the whole situation felt good for about 3 days. And then I just got used to it.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way with journalism, where it's like, in some ways, I have gotten all of my dreams in a very abstract sense, which is... my full-time job is a thing that I'm passionate about and they pay me enough for me to live. I feel like I'm never able to be happy with a new accomplishment because then I'm like, oh no, but what about the next thing?
Right. I mean, I think that's perfectly normal human nature, right? Like, you know, the hedonic treadmill or whatever. Like, you get used to whatever state that you're in, and that becomes your new normal, and then you start looking for other stuff. But it also means that, like, you know, you have to stop chasing external factors and awards and shit like that. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But it's like...
No, yeah.
Yeah. But it is just like... I think what I realized is that if you don't enjoy the actual practice of whatever you're doing, it's not sustainable. Do I enjoy writing? Thread locked after 1 million comments, all from Isabel. I do have to complain about writing before doing a bunch of it because it is like, you know, it's like, it's one of those activities where it's inherently work, but if you get to the flow state, it's good. But getting to the flow state is kind of sometimes a bitch.
Yeah, I feel the same way about running almost, where I've like gotten into running over the last like 4 or 5 months. And when you start running, like, at least for me, like, I really started from, like, 0. Like, I've never been, like, a naturally good cardio person. Mm-hmm. And at first it was, like, the idea of running for 5 minutes straight sounds like hell, and I'm never gonna be able to do it. And then you can do that, and then you're like, oh, well, I mean, everyone can do that. And, like, you can't remember a time when you couldn't run for 5 minutes straight. And then you're like, well, let me run for 10 minutes straight. And then you do it. And then you're like, oh, well, I mean, that's easy. Like, everyone can do it. And then I guess that's been my experience where it's hard for me to acknowledge that I actually have come very far in my doing a thing where running 5 minutes straight is so easy now, and that wasn't easy like 5 months ago. Or like running a mile is pretty chill now, and that wasn't the case. Like, I never thought that was going to be the case. But I think it's the same with writing, where it's like, oh yeah, I mean, I have a full-time journalism job, but I mean, you know, like, it's all luck, whatever, like, who cares? Like, it's fine. And it's very easy to, like, convince yourself, like, well, yeah, I mean, of course that happened. And then it's hard to say to yourself, like, no, actually, these things are happening because I worked hard and I accomplished a thing.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, something we're too self-deprecating and too down on ourselves. And also, like, I can't run 10 minutes straight, man. God, wish I could.
Yeah, I don't know. I like when people ask me for advice about being better at like journalistic writing, I'm just like, I don't know, man, get good.
I hope you say that exactly to them. I think that's really good advice.
No, I mean, I think the actual advice is like write about stuff you care about. Like, when I write about stuff I care about, you can tell in the writing, and when I write about stuff I don't care about, you can tell. And not everyone has the luxury of being able to do the stuff they want to do, but you could also try to find what's interesting about the thing that isn't interesting. Like, I think venture capital is so spectacularly uninteresting, but, like, I could find something interesting in there.
Yeah, actually, okay, no, I do have a good piece of advice, and it's that if you want to get good in the creative field, you have to get really weird about something. I had, like, a whole, like, Slumdog Millionaire, like, flashbacks moment when this was all going down, like, 2 months ago, where I was thinking about how this... Record scratch. So how did I get here? And also, something. You may ask yourself, this is not my beautiful house, this is not my beautiful wife. How did I get here? Letting the days go by. Let the water pull me down. What was interesting to me is how much, like, getting really weird about different pieces of media in my life has led to this moment. In a way where, like, I could construct a coherent narrative that leads to Isabel J. Kim gets a 7-figure science fiction book deal that traces back to Isabel J. Kim is 7 years old and reading a book that is titled The 100 Best Science Fiction and Fantasy Books That You Need to Read Before You Die. I am not reading any of the individual books unless I actually own them. I am reading the book that summarizes all of them multiple times. Because I am such a normal 7-year-old.
See, I thought you were going to say that it was going to trace back to you doing Warrior Cats RP.
No, I didn't do any Warrior Cats RP. My cousin did.
Oh,
okay. And then he sent me the forum, and I didn't understand what RP was because I was 11, and he did not explain it. He was also 11, but I guess he knew what RP was. And I was like, why are you pretending to be a cat that has a family? Even though I had read Warrior Cats, but I didn't understand the concept of RP. And then I posted, and then they were like, why is she posting normal? And he was like, I'm sorry, guys, I did not explain it to her.
No, I mean, I think also I feel that way in terms of how so much of my professional life now has to do with my knowledge of internet and internet culture and communities and how communities form on the internet. And I think that if I had friends in high school, that wouldn't be the case.
Damn! So when you're like, if I hadn't been a loser, I would have not had my career. This is bad advice, Amanda. You shouldn't be. This is not advice you should be giving.
I did have some friends in high school, but I didn't have a lot of friends. And I think I kept finding that I related more to like the people I was meeting on Tumblr than the people that I was hanging out with in real life. But like, there are people from high school I'm still friends with that I like legitimately like clicked with, but it wasn't a lot of people. And I feel like that changed in college and beyond, where I think when you're not in high school, you have more agency over like who you're friends with and like what places you go to find those friends and whatever. And when you're in high school, you don't have that, so you have the internet. And I think if I didn't spend every waking moment on Tumblr, I wouldn't have as much context about how the internet works. But also, I probably wouldn't be on as much Zoloft as I am. So that's the advice.
Yo, that's really bad advice.
I know. I do have a funny anecdote to end on.
Yeah, hit us.
So the journalist Taylor Lorenz wrote a book called Extremely Online. It is about the internet. It is very good. I am pro Taylor Lorenz. She is truly just a normal person that extremely abnormal things happen to. And I'm in the acknowledgements of the book because she just acknowledges a bunch of like other internet writers, and it's very kind. And when I saw I was in it, I was like, oh my god, that's so, like, I was like so tickled. But so I'm in the acknowledgements of the book. And then someone that I know from Tumblr from like 12 years ago, like, we follow each other on Instagram because we've just followed each other on Instagram for like 12 years because whatever. And she DMs me and she's like, oh my god, is this you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And I was like, the most extremely online thing that has ever happened to me is someone that I know from Tumblr 12 years ago seeing my name in a book called Extremely Online and asking me about it.
That's so deeply online. I also think it's cool that sort of interaction can happen. I relate to this deeply because all 9,000 of my closest friends on Tumblr better buy my fucking book or else I will commit Sudoku. On that note, buy my book when it comes out. It's gonna be like a hot minute, but it will come out. And
pre-order it, because pre-orders help authors.
Yeah, pre-order my book when it can be pre-ordered, because that would help me. And my advance is so big, guys. I need to earn out, but it's gonna be so hard. Buy my book. You can't yet, but when you can, please.
We're so good at advertising. Also, go to wowoftrue.com/merch, where there should be the I listened to Wow of True before Isabel J. Kim got a 7-figure book deal merch up soon.
This is the most narcissistic merch we've made. On that note.
It's so fucking funny and people are gonna buy it. It's gonna be our best-selling merch. Just wait.
If you liked this episode, tell a friend. Word of mouth is how we grow. Thank you to all of our patrons, and shout out specifically to Zoe, Brea, Andromeda, Thea, Brian, Gabriel, Adam, Matt, Max, my sugar daddy Sam, Jock, and Aaron's husband. If you want your name in the above or in our Twitter header, slide right into our Patreon at patreon.com/wowoftrue. Shout out to audio editors Allison Mills and David Newtown, graphic designer and Crown of a Warlock Eric Silver, who made our logo, Sam Rizer, who made our podcast music, and Tessa Farah, who's transcribing our episodes. You can find us on Twitter as @WowofTruePod and Instagram and Facebook as @WowofTrue. Had your 15 seconds of internet fame? Slide right into our Twitter DMs and tell us about it. And until next time, let's get weird on the internet. Buy my book. You can't yet, but do it.